I'm Zunaira Azhar and you're watching Epicenter, where we dissect, analyze and help define major domestic and global stories. At least 50 individuals, including 14 security personnel, tragically lost their lives this past week in multiple terrorist attacks in Balochistan. Dozens of militants associated with the banned separatist group Balochistan Liberation Army (BLA) unleashed chaos, let's say, across the province by attacking police stations, sabotaging the railway tracks, and even setting fire to the vehicles, targeting both security forces and civilians, specifically those from Punjab. In today's Epicenter, let's try to dig deep into the very basic question that Balochistan, being Pakistan's largest province with an important geostrategic location, a pool of young workforce and vast reserves of oil, coal, gas, copper and gold, why it remains the nation's most impoverished region, and also if there is a political solution to this militancy uptick. To discuss this, we have been joined by Senator and former caretaker Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Anwarul Haq Kakar. Thank you so much, Mr. Kakar, for joining us. And let's build on the topic as we go forward, because there are many layers to it. This year, we have already seen several attacks in Balochistan targeting civilians, law enforcement personnel, and state infrastructure. But the latest attack represents a shift in the scale and strategy. Some of the analysts believe that the expansion of the operation is unique because it has demonstrated that the terrorists' ability to extend the conflict to or near Punjab was very vivid. How do you reflect on it?
Thank you so much for having me. To be honest with you, as a student of terrorism, insurgency, and related themes and issues, I have learned these two basic principles on which more or less every violent movement revolves, and they are the principle of survivability and the principle of lethality. So the BLA is also growing on both the principles. If you see post-2002 onwards, they have survived. What they have done in their methodology, they have chosen their timings, they have given a periodic breaks in their attacks and attacking civilians, law enforcement agencies, so on and so forth. And with passage of time, gradually, they have increased their expression of lethality also. They have been lethal quite gradual. They started from intimidating non-Baloch populace in the province to targeted assassination, and then attacking the hard targets of law enforcement agencies. And recently, you might, or anyone else would have observed, they have added these suicide bombers also. So they have radicalized their followers to an extent that they are able to produce the suicide bombers which were formally associated, or at least were perceived or presumed that they are associated with the religious inspired violence. So that's how I see it, and in my opinion, it's a long haul, so we need a long haul strategy to counter this threat. It's a very serious menace, and this menace needs very deep reflection on kinetic account, on non-kinetic account, and we need a holistic approach to respond to this challenge.
Yeah, I totally agree to this interplay of so many factors in this conflict, and there are external elements, there are internal elements. Talking of the internal elements, there is so much to be handled. But do you think this 2 decades old conflict has been here today so lethal, as you said yourself, because we have not been reflecting on it as a political problem?
There is a huge debate. I spoke on the floor of the House on this one. Unfortunately, in this country, when it comes to the religious-inspired violence, there is more or less consensus, even now amongst the religious political parties, that terrorism needs to be treated with the management of violence, that you need to manage violence. When you come to the TTP's narrative, or what these days they call it fitnatul khariji, I don't know what would be its exact English translation, but someone which is outside the mainstream, that's how I would put it. So there are views which are quite clear on confronting and managing the violence on that account. But when it comes to the relatively secular, ethnic-inspired violence, most of the intelligentsia in Pakistan, media personnel and others, they try to skew, in my opinion, that this violence can be curbed, can be managed, can be responded once it is taken as a political issue. Why do I don't agree with this assessment? Well, political association or political assessment or solution to the problem would have been, for instance, if there would be a demand, political demand of, let's say, economic rights or political rights, where people would have been demanding, let's say, the quota for jobs or more participation in the parliamentary, different forums available under the Constitution. Or let's say there would have been a contest between the province and the federation over the allocation of economic resources. Well, none of them is in debate when it comes to the demands of these militant outfits. They have clearly illustrated their position that what they want to crave out a new geography and create a new nation state. And in order to achieve that goal, they believe in armed struggle. In order to give a moral boost to that claim and case, they have got a skewed historical version of the events, that there was an independent Balochistan state pre-1947, which obviously was not the case, and so on and so forth. And then they definitely add the so-called political, maybe at times underrepresentation, even the economic disparity. That could be a conducive environment to support this larger claim, but we have to understand that this is an ideological driven movement which believes in the separation, and that separation they believe they could achieve through armed struggle. Once you understand that, then either a political solution or a non-political solution, that can be easily debated.
Fair enough. So if it's a separatist movement, if I borrow your version, if it's a separatist movement, is this the reason that they would not agree to any project like CPEC over there, like targeting Chinese nationals for that matter? Anyone from outside Balochistan is not welcome there, and they are signaling the world that this area is not safe for investment. However, we are looking forward to big projects over there. For example, 15% equity in Reko Diq by Saudi Arabia is anticipated. The Gawada port is the centerpiece of the CPEC $60 billion project. Then how are we looking at this economic sustainability over there?
Oh, well, there is a short-term challenge, there is a mid-term challenge, and there is a long-term challenge. In the short term, I do agree that these militants, through their disruptive means, through the tools of violence, are sending the signal that the province of Balochistan is not safe and it is not conducive for the investors. But when it comes to the serious investors, what they are forgetting that the scale and the yardstick, if you compare it, let's say, with the African continent, there are many nations on West Africa, East Africa, where the level of violence and the structure of the state is relatively more weaker than what you observe in Balochistan or Pakistan. But we have seen that major corporations, they jump in, and even they see an opportunity in situation of crisis and they take advantage of that, to the disadvantage of the local population and to the advantage of the corporate sector. So unfortunately, if they continue with this tendency, there may be a sort of temptation where we or anyone else would be tempted to go into projects which would be disadvantageous to the local population. So in that sense, these militants would be working against the core Baloch interest, and that, in my opinion, would again dwindle and plummet their support base, which in my assessment is not even at that large scale at this stage. Yes, there is a sizable and some of section of the society which is supporting them, but by and large, the huge population, Baloch population, or the population of the province of Balochistan is against this militancy and succession.
Mm-hmm. So the question arises in my mind is that whenever there is an incident like this or incidents like this, we see a lot of government pressers and all the talk about what is happening in Balochistan, and then comes this issue of missing persons, then there is a debate, and as soon as the news cycle ends, the debate ends as well. So what we need is a consistent narrative pacing at national level on the issues of Balochistan so that the common man can understand what you are trying to tell me. But what happens is that the government only shows up whenever there is a need, and media also only catches it up whenever there is a need. Do you think we need a better resolve about presenting this issue to the people of Pakistan and the world in a better way? We lack that at the moment.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. I mean, look at the recent event. The government of United States, the government of United Kingdom, European Union, and the rest of the world has condemned these heinous acts as an act of terrorism. But there is a confusion on a domestic front that whether it's a terror-related issue or it's a political-related issue. So the rest of the globe is clear. The confusion lies within Pakistan. No one from the settled democracy have termed it as a so-called political problem. They've condemned it, and they clearly see it as an issue which is related to the larger question of terrorism. But unfortunately, there is a section of society in mainstream Pakistan. I think so. It's not just government's lukewarm or a knee-jerk response to the event-based response to the Balochistan issue. It's media, it's intelligentsia, it's civil society. Whenever, unfortunately, it's just like we are rewarding a bad behavior. So someone would apply bullet, they would use the tool of the bullet, and then they'll seek our attention, and we will pay attention to them. Other than that, if there is no gory actions, if there is no death toll over there, no one is interested in Balochistan. That is very, very unfortunate.
Right.
So I absolutely agree.
Yeah, so you're someone who has been very vocal about this issue on the floor of Parliament as a caretaker Prime Minister. Why don't you take an initiative and start like a nationwide debate on this so that the people from the universities and all segments of society can actually take part in that debate and understand the matter in a better way? Otherwise, what happens is that the negative narrative takes all the center stage. So that was just an opinion. I'm just going to share with you a report that was presented in Security Council last month, and it said that attacks by Majid Brigade in Gawadar and Turbat are aimed at warning foreign investors. Concerns are being raised about possible cooperation between TTP, Majid Brigade and ISLK, which could increase attacks in Balochistan and Sindh, and this is exactly what is happening. My question is, this is becoming a regional problem. Afghanistan needs to understand that they cannot continue letting their homeland to be used by the militant organizations. Are we engaging with them in a way that, in a language that they understand? Let me put it this way, because so far nothing has worked.
I agree on this account that this local and parochial issue, there are players, in my opinion, led by India, to give it a regional shape and make it a regional sort of a threat, not just for Pakistan but for the rest of the region also. Yes, I think so. We need not just to engage with Afghanistan, but with other regional players as well, and beyond the region also. Because, God forbid, once this larger Middle East, if it faces sort of a instability or disruption,
if there is a spillover of the whole thing,
it will have very, very spillover and spillover effect, which would have large implications for many, many players. So I've been continuously advocating this on different forums with different players, and I think so there is a realization, and that's why this current wave of terror would not be treated as in a simplistic way of just the product of some sort of a political unrest or so-called political instability. It has got more deep roots, which has got strategic reasons behind all such initiatives.
Let's take a short break here. Welcome back to Epicenter once again, and we are discussing this new surge in terrorism, in particular in Balochistan last week. Senator Anwarul Haq Kakar, the former caretaker Prime Minister of Pakistan, is joining us. Senator Kakar, let's bring the solution in, the resolve in. Starting from when you were in government and there was this protest from Balochistan all the way to Islamabad, there was a committee, I believe, who met the protesters, and something must have been agreed between the both parties. And now the Interior Minister told the reporters in Lahore that the decision to launch the Azm-e-Istehkam operation in Balochistan was a tricky matter. Can you reflect on what happened when you were in charge and what is happening now?
Let's take everything bit by bit. There are protests by different so-called civil society activists. In my opinion, I feel there are, in the garb of, they masquerade as a civil society activist, and they actually become the mouthpiece for these terrorist organizations. What they do talk about is mostly about the procedural rights of these terrorists and militants, which at some time has some basis, and at time it is quite baseless. But they're more focused on propaganda rather than raising awareness on civil rights issues or human rights issues, for the matter. For the larger province interest. Why I'm saying so? These particular individuals, whenever it comes to the militants and operations against them, they would raise certain questions to make all those lawful actions against them dubious. And when the unarmed citizenry, which either belongs to outside the province of Balochistan or the people of Balochistan but who do not subscribe to the militancy, when they get eliminated, when they get targeted, they are mum and silent, they muzzle. They don't even talk about that. Once the social pressure comes, then the maximum position they would take that they believe in the rule of law. Well, of course, everyone believes in the rule of law, but when some innocent blood is shed, genuinely the civil activist, I presume, would raise the issue and would demand from the state and the government to take action, lawful action, against all those militants. But it does not come from them. So that's why the governments do see such activists, that they are the one who masquerade as a peaceful protesters, but who are actually advancing the agenda of the militants. They have got the same goal in changing the geography of Pakistan, undoing the geography of Pakistan. One takes the so-called activism role. They pose as activists, they pose themselves as peaceful activists, which, yes, in this case, they do not resort to violence, but they don't need it because their brethren are doing it in the name of BLA and Majid Brigade and BLF, so on and so forth. So they become the people who confuse the entire narrative within the province and at the national scale, and the militancy is carried on by the militant outfits in the form of these groups. That's how I clearly see them.
Okay.
The current government, I am not privy to the information, what is their plan, what is their strategy, but yes, I do agree that we need a holistic approach. First of all, the correct diagnosis of the situation, then the prescription can be debated. If we do not agree on the diagnosis, or if there is a wrong diagnosis, then no matter what sort of remedy and mitigation anyone would suggest, it wouldn't work.
Well, I totally agree with you, but do you see a resolve out there? Because the kinetic operations have been going on since ever. It's true that Balochistan is a very difficult terrain. It's true that in such a place, security lapses would happen. But something is missing here.
I think so. The basic understanding is missing. Even this statement that the kinetic operations are going on for ages is absolutely untrue. Well, periodically, yes. But this is what is required, consistency. We have been talking about consistency. The nature of non-state warfare is that they come and they attack you periodically. And if you give the knee-jerk response and just respond to the attacks whenever they occur, and then leave it, it would be unattended. And this is one of the reasons that we lack smart kinetics, which I would call it, the consistent cleansing of all these militants from the mountainous terrain where they hide, where they reside, where they plan, where they come on the main highways to execute. And if we do not have a hot pursuit, which we haven't, I think so, this would continue for quite a long time.
What I'm understanding from what you have said is that that is exactly what the current army chief has said, that there is a need for intelligence-based operations, something that is periodic as well and something that is based on intelligence, rather than we displace the entire population and create another mess. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Population, I mean, when I'm referring to smart kinetics, that's what exactly I mean. The majority of the population, I would say between 95 to 98% of the Balochistan province population is against these militants. How could we target that population who is already on the side of the state? And they want these militants to be eliminated. So you have to differentiate between the two when it comes to the kinetics and have an immaculate planning and execution both.
Yeah, so you said there is a need of a holistic approach, and that is exactly what is missing. For example, in a conflict zone, once the area is cleared from any kind of militants, there has to be a civil governance in sight. So bit by bit, you try to develop that area so that there is a civil writ and then there is a security writ in place as well. But since 2 decades, this has not happened. What we see is that some elders from some tribes of Balochistan are always sitting in the parliament, but we rarely see them talking about the real plight of their people and these problems. Do you think that the leadership crisis is also there that has to be blamed?
Well, there is an nuance to that too. Yes, partially I would agree with this assessment, but there is a civil government right now. There has been a civil government in the past. The problem with those governments is not that the area is not in their control as it used to be in, let's say, in erstwhile FATA. That would be apple and oranges. In the situation of Balochistan, the territory is in your control. The writ is there. these militants, they are hiding somewhere in the mountains. They come down on the highways, in the towns. They commit this disruption and terrorist acts, and they run away. But at the same time, the civilian structure is there, the civilian government is there. The issue is of poor governance, and the poor governance at times contribute towards enhancing this insurgency, and it does provide a conducive environment where the supply chain of the new recruits is available to them. That
readily available,
is true to an extent.
Yeah.
So what is needed over here, that the civilian government or the provincial government need a focus, and I personally feel the current Chief Minister is quite a dynamic young leader, and I hope that he prioritizes, and he is focusing on that he would connect the individuals and create their economic stake, create their political stake throughout the province, which is required very much in order that these insurgents should not have that kind of a supply in terms of recruits or new recruits when it comes to the when the kinetics would be more effective against them. So this part needs to be focused and should be gelled in with the whole of the strategy.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Anwarul Haq Kakar, for joining us. Let's take a short break here. Welcome back to Epicenter once again, and let's look at our global story now. Once again, Israel has issued orders for Palestinians to evacuate from Gaza, while also directing the UN to move its operation base, causing significant disruption to whatever little humanitarian operations are possible there. Palestinians are already grappling with malnutrition, diseases, and they're also trying to survive the attacks from the Israel. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris has expressed unwavering support for Israel's right to self-defense, emphasizing that we need to get the deal done. In her recent interview to CNN, as the humanitarian crisis deepens and Israel pushes for complete victory, what specific deal is Kamala Harris referring to in this context? To delve further into this discussion, we have been joined by Mr. Sajid Tharer, who is a Republican, and Mr. Tahir Javed, who is a Democrat. Thank you so much, both of you gentlemen, for joining us. I'll be quoting from the interview the exact words of Kamala Harris, and I want you, Mr. Sajid, to comment on those. She said, "Let me be very clear. I'm unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself. And that's not going to change." She is adamant that she is going to almost follow the same policy as Joe Biden. How do you reflect on it?
First of all, I wanted to share with you what this interview was, how it has seen. Matter of fact, it was nothing but looks like her campaign media propaganda show. Matter of fact, the way they portray her, you know, like marketing, like it seems like CNN was either paid to do this thing. Second thing is this: the Kamala Harris, what the interview was about. All her favorite questions were asked, the way she wants to handle it. And what is her stand on Gaza? It depends on who she is talking to. If the Gazans are standing in front of, if the people standing in front of her protesting against Israel, she will say that we will embargo Israel and we will stop sending the ammunition. And if the political correctness is needed, then she will offer the packages. Right now, the Biden administration has given $20 billion package, maybe like 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So the thing is this: the Kamala Harris does not know what is going on, and she has a full support of CNN and left-wing media enterprise. And frankly speaking, that interview was not the way it's supposed to be. Not a single relevant question was asked. Not a single relevant answer was given. And this is a tragedy. This is a setback to the American politics and American voters. First of all, it was a short-handed candidate change during the campaign. After all the speeches done by the Republicans and everything, suddenly the candidate changed. That is a setback to American democracy. And second and third thing is this: the media is shielding her. not only shielding her, but the White House at the same time. Kamala Harris does not know where the Gaza is, frankly speaking. The way she was a border czar here, and you have to remember that. What is her performance as a vice president? She was one of the historically proven unsuccessful vice president in this country. She has never gone to the border, and if you personally ask her where the Gaza is, she might not have any clue.
She was avoiding this question, although she was asked consistently why she has not gone to the border, and she was avoiding the question. Mr. Tahir Javed, how do you look at her speech at the Democratic Convention, where she categorically said that, yes, I stand with Israel and their right to defend themselves. And then in this first ever interview, she was avoiding interview till now. How do you look at as a Democrat? Because it should affect you in many ways, because what we have heard from a lot of progressive Democrats, they would like to hear something humanitarian related on Gaza. That was not there.
Well, during her speech in the convention, I would personally say it was a pretty balanced speech. We have to understand whatever we like to hear, it's not the time for that, and that's not going to happen. Now, what certain
all right, okay,
Muslims,
what do you mean by that? Whatever we like to hear, the whole world wants to hear the ceasefire. The whole world wants the humanitarian crisis should end. I'm talking about that. So that is what everyone wants to hear.
No, that's not. These two items were in her speech. She did talk about the children in Gaza. She did talk about ceasefire. It was, I would say, the speech was maybe 45% conversation about Gaza and maybe 55% on the subject for Israel. And this is the first time ever anybody has seen in a convention a presidential candidate would speak and keep the balance tilted towards like 45% about Palestine or any issue which is not popular issue when it comes to or talking against Israeli government's wishes. This is the first time it ever happened. Nobody ever spoke
what has she said? What has she said that you would categorize as? Okay, listen to me. A single point where she has said that all the armed support, the ammunition and the dollars that are going to Israel are being used bombardment of the Gazan civilians, children, hospitals, infrastructure. Now even the UN has been told to wrap up and go from there. And this is the 18th evacuation order in 1 month. And what she says, I'm quoting here verbatim from the transcript of her interview, she said, 12,000 people were massacred, and she's talking about the people who were at the musical concert, which means she's talking about the Israelis, not the Palestinians. And then, Mr. Tahir, let's do a fact check here. I have the transcript from her speech at the convention in front of me, and surprising to many observers, she laid out a very tough agenda on defense and foreign policy, promising to maintain the strongest and most lethal fighting force in the world, retain our leading position in NATO, defend Ukraine against Russian aggression, stand up against Iran and North Korea, and take democracy's side in the struggle with tyranny. Nowhere did she mention Gaza in her whole display of foreign policy. Also, in the interview, when Dana Bash asked her that in the meantime, what do you mean by let's get the deal done? She said, and we must get a deal that is about getting the hostages out. She talked about the hostages. Very briefly, like 10% of the time, she talked about Palestinians deserve to live in dignity. If that is what you call 45% and first time ever anyone talking about against Israel, then I'm surprised.
What did she? Okay, she did talk about if you calculate the time, I'm talking about the time. If you calculate the time, she did emphasize the people has the right to live with the dignity, and she did mention about ceasefire, and she did mention that we need to get this deal done. When you're talking about the deal done, you can tilt it anywhere you wanted to tilt that, but meaning we need to get to the bottom line of this this situation. Now, I'm sure a few weeks before when she did not go to the joint session where Israeli Prime Minister spoke. And that was a pretty big deal if you realize that, being a presidential candidate, going to be, and she did not, she refused to meet with him. She refused. So she did show, tried to show somewhat balance where I think Muslims in this country, I don't think we are happy. I don't think we are 100% aligned with, but we see the improvement, if I would say very carefully, that it's not there yet. Well, okay, did you see her not going to the joint session?
Okay, I get your point. But do you see any improvement in this war that started on 7th October? Only children are dying, only civilians are dying. Do you see any improvement in that?
No, I don't. And I'm not claiming that either. And I think it should be better. It should be a total ceasefire, and they need to start the humanitarian war.
Experts all over the world agree that if there is one country that can stop this war, that's U.S. And do you think that U.S. is making any efforts towards that? And because why our focus is on Kamala Harris? Because she's a potential or a possible president of the United States, and whatever she says is a policy statement.
Right. No, listen, I agree with exactly what you're saying. But my question is, do you see the other side talking about the ceasefire? Do you see the Republican sides? Our disappointment is equally with
our disappointment is in Democrats, because I'm sorry, but Democrats stand for democracy and Republicans stand for something else, if I may put it this way. So people are really disappointed in Democrats because all they bring to the world is war.
Well, then I'm sure you don't have
16 years
no, but
in Oval Office.
Do you know? Okay, can I answer?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Do you know Jamal Bowman, Democrat from New York, lost his election only because he spoke very loudly about Israel doing wrong? Do you know Cori Bush lost her? And these are the Congress members who are getting elected over and over and over. Democrats lost their seats, and AIPAC fully funded new candidate, and they made sure they wanted to make these guys not to come back to the Congress. So when you're talking about you disappointed with Democrats, I think you need to sit down and watch what sacrifices Democrat has done to speak about this big issue.
I'm sorry, Mr. Tahir Javed, the catastrophe is so big. The visuals are so daunting and so hurting that even if I try, I cannot make a politically correct statement by agreeing to you. Mr. Sajid Tarar, how do you see it as a Republican, what is happening in Gaza? And everybody is trying to justify his or her position as a candidate, and nobody is talking about this man-made disaster as a first priority to be resolved.
Here, first of all, my candidate, who has a 4 years of record of his presidency now, and I'm proud to say that during his 4 years of period, there was not a single conflict took place on the planet. And being a political scientist myself, I firmly believe in it. Whatever is happening today in the world, everything it goes towards the Obama mindset, Obama calculated him. And matter of fact, even then Donald Trump, in every single speech, they say that all the money, look at the Iran, how much oil they are pumping today, how much money has given to Iran, and how Obama was supporting them. And then the Biden kept doing the same thing. And here, after the fall of the Kabul de-dollarization. And matter of fact, now our embassies are being shut down on American foreign policy. You know how the BRICS is expanding, how they are moving away from the dollar and America, and they don't care. And frankly speaking, here, if you see on Gaza, they don't have any. And matter of fact, I wanted to make a correction. The Obama did not attend when the Bibi Netanyahu was speaking at the same time. She hasn't done something new. It was a precedent already. What is the main difference in between right now in both parties at their stand on Gaza? The Donald Trump continuously say that we want Israel to finish their operation and go back to their own boundaries. Matter of fact, whatever is going on, 40,000 innocent civilians has been butchered in 21st century.
And we don't know how many are under the rubble.
How many under the rubble is unacceptable. Matter of 2 billion Muslims on the planet, and matter of fact, a Democrat party with those take Muslim Americans for granted and have never given them any policy-related appointment in this country, have never accommodated them. Always stay just verbally, just words for the Kashmir, words for Palestine, words for the Uyghur Muslims, just words for the Chinese Muslims or something, but they have never done or delivered not a single thing. It is embarrassing the way the Democrat Party has been taking Muslim Americans for granted.
Right. Mr. Tahir, I'm again quoting from the interview where Dana Bash brought up his campaign slogan, "We are not going back." Mr. Tahir, unfortunately, we are disconnected with our Democrat friend. There was this slogan by Harris, "We are not going back." And I wonder what this means, because they have been in office since last 4+ years. So what are they referring to? Because clearly groceries were less expensive when Donald Trump was in Oval Office.
Matter of fact, the thing is this: she has been using different words, like the having wall on the Mexican border. She said this is a medieval project or something, and she is saying Donald Trump is taking us back. I mean, she seems like she's going to take us to Mars. But plus, at the same time, I want to make a correction. She is not in office in 4 years. Barack Obama is running this country for the last 12 years. Same policies, matter of fact. She's an extension. She will be an extension of Obama regime at the same time. Same foreign policy, same socialist mindset, same open border, and bringing all these immigrants and giving them green cards and voting rights. So this is what the Obama's dream is, to make this country one-party rule, and that's what she will be working. Matter of fact, not only this, Biden, what they said, the Biden economics. Biden other day came up there and he said he doesn't see any inflation. He doesn't see any unemployment. I have no clue which planet he's talking about. The country is suffering right now badly. Matter of fact, unemployment is high. Inflation is out of control. Matter of fact, the Ford, the biggest the car producer other day, they said they are walking away from the DEI policies of them. As a matter of fact, and not only this, last thing I wanted to add up about this convention. Sadly, the Michelle Obama came up there and she said the White House running this country is a black job. Imagine about it, what kind of racial statement it can be. Imagine about it if the Donald Trump would have said
Donald Trump saying this.
Yeah. Yes, imagine about it if he would have said that this is a white job, how the America would behave and act. Right now, you must have seen riots in every city. But this country is losing democratic values on a daily basis, and it is very sad thing to watch.
I would like to bring your attention to this consistent blanket kind of a ban on reporting on Gaza on your mainstream media. And a lot of voters are now relying on the non-conventional sources for the information. Donald Trump also sat with Elon Musk, for example, for an interview. Do you see a problem with your mainstream media as well?
Big time. Matter of fact, right now it seems like the CNN wants to run the White House. Maybe it seems like Dana Bash, she's working for the yesterday interview. A lot of Americans like myself who are very disappointed. It seems like Dana Bash is working for the Kamala Harris campaign. I mean, right now, frankly speaking, every day I want a listener and people those are watching it just experience this. Open the CNN every morning and it seems like they are just working for the Kamala Harris campaign. And it's unfortunate reality. The next debate among both candidates, you will see it. This is what is going to happen. All the mediators, they will be supporting Kamala Harris, and the minute that debate will be over, the first thing you will see that Donald Trump's fact check that he has lied about 100 times, and Kamala Harris she already has won the election. So it is very disappointing that Americans, they are not getting a fair shot to the election, to the White House. People are losing the faith on election, the institution of election. It is embarrassing to see where the democratic values have a history of 250 years, and this is what is happening. This is what is taking place, that it is called the White House is a black job. It is a sad situation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sajid Tarar, for joining us. And this wraps up this week's. I'll see you next week.